So after spending nearly 40 hours playing the latest NTE closed beta test, I have come to a conclusion. Urban open world is the way to go moving forward in this industry because, my god, this game is just a joy to mess around with. From crazy anomaly encounters while driving my car, to striving to become a millionaire so I can own the most luxurious cars and apartments, everything feels like a breath of fresh air, and I am absolutely ready to accept the big city life. Now, I've covered NTE several times before, and in this video, I am going to talk about my first impressions of this closed beta test I've participated in, which the developers are calling it Containment Test. There's a ton of changes from previous video I've made, and I will be focusing on, in my opinion, 3 of the most important aspects: driving, wanted system, and the urban life. But I'll also talk about every other significant detail I've experienced, such as the new and improved anomaly encounters, combat, and characters, which also means there's a gacha system, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen. Still, full disclosure, this video is sponsored by the developers, which I'm thankful for. However, this game is looking for feedback, and I will be sharing it because I truly want NTE to succeed, and I believe we're onto something big here. Anyway, let's start with the most unique aspect: driving. The game previously only offered a couple of vehicle models to experience in a limited way, but now, early in the game's story, you get to unlock a scooter, which obviously the first thing I did is to get squished by this crazy driver. Very cool. And while I enjoyed this cute moped, I immediately went to check out the local dealerships. Some nice cars here. There's even this premium dealership that's way out of my budget. However, I spot this motorcycle and, on a whim, buy it. And damn, it feels amazing to just fly at high speed and collide into things like a maniac. But get this, there's even a secret way to modify this bike. If you beat this biker boss and equip its dropped arc, which is kinda like a weapon, the bike gains blue flames, and now I am an anime ghost rider, blazing through the streets, being a menace to society. It's these little secret details that already makes NTE stand out. But moving on to cars, a bunch of new models were added, including a couple of supercars. But interestingly enough, a lot of the vehicles on the street can be requisitioned thanks to Mint's ability. She's from Bureau of Anomaly Control and holds some authority over citizens. But even then, people might refuse to get out of their cars, which is pretty hilarious. And sometimes they will get out to still decline. However, a little physical persuasion will change their opinion, and then you can get into the car by force, which also incidentally will raise your wanted level. I'll talk about this whole system in a moment, but for now, yeah, you can drive a bunch of different cars on the street that you won't even find in dealerships, like trucks for example. Still, how can you live in a city without a little racing on the side? Okay, so there's 6 challenges right now, each with their own drivers and racetracks you can participate in. However, do not do what I did. Early on, the tutorial told me to buy this piece of junk as the first car, and while it gets the job done to get from point A to B, it's absolutely useless at racing. So with the little money I had, I went ahead and bought myself this new model, went to the tuning shop, gave it a retro color, and even put in new wheels. Yes, you can even upgrade the car's stats like RPM, traction, and so on. Oh, and later on, I even noticed you can change the license plate, so I gave myself a fitting name. But yeah, with this new car, now I can become the ultimate racer, and of course, like a pro athlete, I made sure to crash into my opponents to slow them down. Winning these races doesn't give a lot of rewards, but it's still worth completing them all for premium gacha currency and the money that you can use to buy stuff like food, vehicles, furniture, and more. Also, one thing I've noticed, since you can damage vehicles with reckless driving, it actually has impact on speed. For example, after beating up this car, I noticed that maximum speed decreases by roughly 30%, which is kinda crazy if you think about it, and you'll definitely want to repair at the car shop before any race. Now, you might be wondering, can you race around in co-op? Yes, however, as of recording this footage, this feature is time-locked in the beta. Although I have seen some crazy footage of it, because CN players got to play a little earlier, and you can, for example, get into passenger seats so your friend can drive around, or you can all even go into actual races together. Be warned though, if we ever play co-op, I might drive us into the ocean. But still, driving around is easily the best selling point of NTE. There's just something about getting into a car and cruising around aimlessly. Although the city is full of secrets and anomalies to uncover, so it's cool how we can stop by randomly and find new stuff to experience. Like, for example, I found this beautiful underwater tunnel, and before I realized, this massive whale transported me to a different realm, where I had to chase it down and then ultimately fight it to gain its rewards. I also like the fact there's currently 3 weather systems that can be set on demand. Sunny, which is my favorite because I can grab some beautiful footage, especially during sunset. Then there's rainy weather. This is where Unreal Engine 5 really shows itself off, with technologies like Lumen completely transforming how the city looks during rain, especially at night. And then there's Snowy mode. Interestingly enough, you need to complete a side quest to unlock it. And as of writing this script, I am not sure if I have it yet, but footage shown here depicts the weather. And from what I understand, the snowy roads also affect the car and its tires, so things like drifting will feel more impactful. Now, I've also noticed there's taxi cars in the city, but you cannot use their services. Hopefully the devs consider adding this feature because now I must let out my frustrations on these useless cab drivers, and then instead, I gotta catch a train to ride it. Well, on the bright side, the train routes are planned pretty well within the city. I even recorded this footage of me riding the whole loop of one of the districts, and noticed it even goes into this beach part where the water is slushing onto tracks. Quite unique. And while riding the train is free, it's even more exhilarating to just stay on top of it and see what happens next. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to transportation. Now, let's talk about the wanted system, which the game calls it warrant system. Basically, you'll notice this bar near the minimap, which gradually increases by doing things like crashing into cars, attacking pedestrians, or even worse, attacking the police officers. They cannot be defeated in any way because I guess the law is immune to scum like me, and instead, a star level will keep building up. At 1 star, the policemen go crazy with their cars, crashing into you like maniacs in the name of the law, but once you get to 2 stars, now the drones are released, and these things are unrelenting. They will shoot you down without any warning, and usually it's GG if you can shake them off. Finally, the 3rd star level is where you will abandon hope of escaping. Literally, what happened to me here is that the game froze when I reached level 3. All I heard was that the executioner has arrived, but I couldn't understand what that meant. So after reloading the game, lo and behold, this massive police car popped up with its creepy legs and basically one-shot my team. I was helpless against it. I mean, look, I know this was a bug, but it was super hilarious since normally, once 3rd star is reached, what actually happens is that you're transported into this instance to fight the police boss. And I'm not sure yet about my character builds, but I believe I should be able to beat it later on. Hopefully, that will be my goal for this beta test. But yeah, once you lose all teammates or get arrested, back at the police station you have 2 choices. Pay the fine, which is hilariously small, or don't pay the fine and be placed under parole. What do you think I did? Yeah, I'm a cheapskate, I chose parole route. And dude, this timer here is real time. Even pausing the game will not progress it. So for 15 minutes, I was not able to drive anything. I'm not sure what else I was forbidden to do, but it was already funny enough I had to pay my dues this way. I literally got thrown into anime jail. Spectacular. Oh, and did I mention you can even steal stuff from shops? Not a lot of it, but sometimes you can see red text appear with item name, which indicates you can, grab it for free. And then this also increases the warrant level. Still, can you escape the cops? Yeah, I found the best way to do it is by climbing on top of any building and just hiding. Not sure how effective this strategy is, but if you own an apartment, one of the anomaly furniture abilities will remove it entirely when entering the premises, which is pretty nice. But this brings us to the next part, urban life. So as I just said, you can own several homes. By talking to one of the realtor agencies, you can browse between these 5 locations, from owning a wiener apartment all the way to this massive villa that costs an insane amount of money. Each one also comes with unique anomaly furniture that gives things like permanent critical damage increase for all units to, as previously mentioned, benefits such as avoiding the cops. Not only that, you can also fully customize the place with furniture, and it just so happened that I randomly came across this shop that sells miniatures, which you could obtain from gachapons. Hey, that's the origin of gacha term. And then after a healthy amount of pulling, I can now display my collected minis in this cabinet at home. I love this detail. Now, just like in real life, consumerism isn't free. You need moolah for that. The game calls its money fawns, which is only used for consumerism, and there's a separate currency to upgrade characters. But yeah, to earn fawns, you can buy businesses from realtors, like this coffee shop, where then you have to select the dishes or drinks the shop will serve, which will require ordering goods, which you can buy locally or select online delivery, and then hire your teammates as unpaid labor to start generating passive income. What's also cool about this is that each teammate has their own unique passive abilities that help boost certain products' profitability or even increase the amount of customer visits. And you can even own several businesses, which means more fawns, and baby, someday you might get to drive that supercar into your villa. Another way to make fawns is by doing these city commissions. For example, a delivery company will ask you to, well, deliver the goods within a certain amount of time, and hopefully now you abide the traffic rules because the reward will depend on how fast and how undamaged the goods are. Don't bump into stuff like I did here. The reward will be fonts and this upgrade material, which is used to upgrade those passive shop abilities for units, and interestingly enough, doing city commissions costs a separate energy system called City Stamina, which is not the same as another stamina system called Character Pixels that is used to farm for upgrade materials. Pretty interesting choice to separate the two. But yeah, besides that, funds will be used to buy tons of different goods around the city. There's so many shops scattered all over the place. Each offers some kind of ingredient, food, furniture, or even unique items. Like, sometimes I'll just stop by and browse randomly. Who knows? Maybe I do want to buy 999 baguettes. Still, let's remember that NTE is set in a world of anomalies. Weird, psychedelic, and creepy things are infesting the big city life here. And since my previous video, I've noticed the quality of these encounters have improved. For example, while driving around, I noticed this truck had, tentacles out? Well, after catching up, it turns out it was an anomaly, and I really was surprised by that. You can actually just seek out anomalies by using this tracking system, but I personally found it way more fun to just discover them as I explore the city. However, some anomalies, even with tracking, require proper investigating, like these creepy dolls only show up during at school at night. And you have to first avoid getting caught by the night guard, so you have to sneak around before fighting these dolls and solving their puzzles. So yeah, anomalies remain a great part of urban exploration, but I do feel like there's still not enough of them though, and hopefully devs will consider adding more because they're just one-time encounters and there's really barely any enemies in the city you can randomly find. Sure, there's human scavengers or whatever they are that you can fight to get some chests or, you know, use a card to ram into them, but I really believe it's best to just keep adding more anomalies or even random encounters to spruce things up. But yeah, those are the big three things that improved or changed compared to the last time I played the game about 7 months ago, and a ton of progress has been made. However, there are still other things I want to talk about, starting with story. So finally, now I got to experience it in English, since last time it was only in Chinese, and yeah, I like the vibe of the game. I mean, I don't love the idea the main character yet again has amnesia, but I guess by now there's some kind of reason why developers choose this for gacha games. I don't know. But anyway, you can pick the gender. Obviously we're going with the female MC, and then we're thrown into the world of Bureau of Anomaly Control. Better yet, we're assigned to work with this team of investigators stationed at Avon Antique Shop. I really enjoyed this cast of characters. Nobody takes themselves seriously, hence I especially adore Sakiri, who's the most chaotic of the group, and her English VA really made the character's banter enjoyable. In fact, most of the English cast have done a great job. Obviously, to some extent, this is a subjective observation, but there was no one grading my ears off with their performance. So far, I've experienced the same episodes like in the previous beta test, but I did notice some big changes in episode 2. Like, it feels a lot more polished and nuanced. And after I'll be done with this video, I will start episode 3 immediately. Still, there are no real stakes yet. Not that I've noticed, at least. There's something going on with MC and their mysterious powers, which isn't that groundbreaking in terms of storytelling, but I did notice that the pattern right now in storytelling feels like a TV series. Each new episode starts off with a client who wants to hire the MC and the Avon cast to solve an anomaly mystery, and that in itself is already a win in my books, since I've watched tons of TV shows like X-Files, Law & Order, Mentalist, and so on. Basically, I can see them developing interpersonal stories of each unit through the hired work, and of course, who doesn't love solving a mystery? A trippy mystery, since those anomalies can mess with reality. Oh, and speaking of character development, I believe the bond system is new here. You can gift items to units, which is a pretty usual thing we see in gacha games. However, this one is a bit more refined. Raising the bond level of units can result in some cool rewards, like custom skins for that particular unit, such as the pajama skin here. But interestingly enough, you can also raise bond level with random NPCs, like this guy I met who owns a tofu shop. I've completed his quest initially and he became my friend. And after raising his bond level, I unlocked a new mission to deliver more tofus. What can you do, huh? But maxing him out also unlocks a permanent discount for his shop, so that's pretty cool. But moving over to the last few segments, characters and the gacha system. So I didn't really talk too much about combat since I covered it in previous video, but in a nutshell, each character can be one of the Esper type: Cosmos, Anima, Incantation, Chaos, Psyche, and Lakshana. Some enemies will have this marker to show they will take more damage from this specific Esper type, but the main gameplay element revolves around Esper cycles. You build it up with any active unit, and then based on this wheel shown here, if the next unit you swap to is of the adjacent Esper type, a unique effect will be unleashed. For example, switching from Lakshana to Cosmos and vice versa will inflict the enemy with Remora, which will slow down the enemy's movement and speed. Or if you trigger Esper cycle between Incantation and Chaos, Scorch will be applied that will deal DOT for the duration. Like right now, my team is made up in a way that I can trigger 2 different Esper cycles between my 4 units, so each of them can apply a cycle back and forth. What's also interesting is that each character can modify these cycles in different ways with their kit as shown here. So I do believe there will be various ways to approach team comps. But yeah, besides having the usual normal, skill, and ultimate abilities, the Esper cycle is unique to each unit. And there's even this tab where you can check out unique passive exploration abilities each unit grants. Like this one reduces vehicles' durability loss, and even unlocks new custom look for that particular car model. Another thing that I've been dying to see, and NTE actually did it, the ability to turn two powers on and off, which is great if you want to test performance at various investment levels. Still, what's a gacha game without artifact system? Well, this one is called console, but its RNG appears to be a lot more forgiving because these Tetris pieces act as artifacts to place on the grid, and the final substats show up at level 0. So if you don't like the substats the piece has, you don't have to put in more resources. This alone is an amazing feature because how many more times do I need to roll on artifacts to see all of them end up in defense? And yeah, there's also this centerpiece that acts as a set bonus, which will depend on how many matching Tetris pieces are slotted in. Finally, there's the arc system, which is basically like weapons, and every character can only benefit from only a certain arc type, similar to HSR or ZZZ. However, the gacha is different for arcs. You see, so far I've unlocked 2 S-rank arcs by just exploring, and many more A ranks as well. But right now, in the game shop, you can use these tri-keys to just straight up purchase S-rank arcs, or pull for the featured one, which will be guaranteed after 8 pulls. I do not know what the pull economy is going to look like once the game goes global, so I cannot comment too much on this, but it does feel like obtaining S-rank arcs won't be hard, and a lot of the S-ranks just seem to be scattered in open world. Like this one, you can just get it from the biker boss first time you beat him, and you can also see all the ways you can obtain tri-keys shown here. So hopefully, all we gotta worry about are the characters. Speaking of which, let's talk about the gacha system because boy oh boy it is unlike anything else I've seen. Basically, right now there's 2 banners, featured and standard, but once you click on one of them, you're transported to a Monopoly board? Okay, so 1 pull equals to 1 dice roll, and you can end up on a bunch of different spaces. The worst one is Purple Box. It contains trash B rank arcs with a small 0.2% chance it will be S rank unit instead. Then, if you land on Golden Box, the rate goes up to 3% for S rank, otherwise it's another arc with some warp pieces. The warp pieces and lost pieces are more or less the same thing from other mainstream gachas. You use these currencies at the in-game shop to buy stuff, which by the way, here you can just straight up buy S rank standard units and the usual pull currencies, which are the dice and the keys, or use lost pieces to buy materials and the limited amount of dice and keys every shop refresh. But yeah, going back to the board, there's several mini games, one of which is to catch this little guy within a certain amount of dice rolls, which will award you with 30 warp pieces, which is quite a lot. Or if you land on one of these squares on the left side, you cross the rainbow bridge, where majority of spaces contain golden boxes, and one space that gives back 5 either limited of unlimited banner or standard dice otherwise. But on the right side, if you happen to cross that little island, one space contains S-rank unit, which will be either featured one on featured banner or random standard unit otherwise. However, there is a pity. After 70 dice rolls, if you still haven't obtained S-rank unit, the board will transform and it's populated with S-rank unit spaces everywhere. But if you're unlucky like me, then the hard pity is going to be 90, and the final dice roll will simply result into S-rank unit instead. Oh, and most important of all, the featured banners have no 50-50. You can even see the featured units here. Literally, if you win, you just get that featured unit, and in this case, it would be Nonally. Also, you can see that every 10 dice rolls will result in A rank unit. Finally, first 50 rolls on standard banner only costs 8 dice each, and after those 50 rolls, a selector becomes available. So quite a generous start, since by then you'll also have built 50 towards pity on the banner. Overall, quite the experimental way to pull for characters here. It definitely feels more interactive, and in my opinion, there's a lot more ways that developers could alter the board to make it even more interesting. Like right now, both featured and standard boards just have those 2 little islands on the side, but I could see in the future the boards having more unique reward spaces, different layouts, and maybe even different mini games. Although I have not done any deep analysis on how the dice work, I just keep rolling them like a happy little gacha gamer and landing on random spaces. But the fact that there's no 50-50 on featured banner is already huge in my opinion. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to my first impressions of this latest beta test. Now, as for my feedback, I think there's still quite a few technical aspects the game needs to iron out. The biggest one, in my opinion, are the pop-in textures. It is especially noticeable when driving at higher speed. There's also that annoying problem with stuttering, but it does seem to go away after a while and only shows up when booting up the game for the first few hours after installing it, and when visiting new areas. I believe this is the usual challenge with Unreal Engine when developing on it. Don't get me wrong though, there are some insane technical achievements in this game, like the seamless loading from indoors to outdoors, or quick transition to domains or anomalies is impressive. All of that makes the game feel extremely free-flowing. And other than that, with this monstrous PC gaming rig, I didn't notice that many stutters after spending the first day gaming. Sadly, I cannot comment on mobile devices since I only got into PC testing, but I've heard decent reviews so far. Like, let's be real, this game is super ambitious, and making it work on phone without issues will require a ton of effort. But I did see some tests online that show the performance to be pretty good so far. I mean, that's why there's a beta test going on right now. The devs are working together with the community to figure out how to solve these performance issues. But besides that, the driving still feels a little rough around the edges. Like, it feels when I turn the wheel there's not enough resistance, and I can make sharp turns way too easy. I also think that climbing should be refined. You can kinda run horizontally on the wall, but there's no way to run up other than spamming this jump animation. And I also found quite a few building walls where I just can't climb them, but I am guessing that wasn't the intention, and will be fixed regardless. I am also not sure about the city commissions using a separate stamina system. Like, I had fun doing these tasks for the first few days, but I would probably instead increase the rewards significantly, remove the stamina system, and just make these tasks weekly, so they don't become too repetitive, since there's already the stamina system for grinding character materials. The beauty of NTE to me personally is the freedom that it gives. There's tons of shops and stuff to buy, and if I was someone who wanted to just grind the game, I'd find a way to provide a consistent avenue to generate funds besides city commissions and running a business. And yeah, finally, I would definitely suggest adding a lot more NPC encounters, like them giving a quest or asking for help, something to do while you randomly drive around, because after completing all the side quests I could find so far, I felt I would just enjoy it a bit more if the NPCs interacted in some way outside the side quests. Like, there's already hundreds of different NPCs I found doing different things in the world, and they do feel alive, but giving that extra oomph with small, maybe random interactions would be fun. But all in all, I found NTE to be extremely enjoyable. I am highly looking forward to its release, and I absolutely think it's worth pre-registering for it. You can use my link in the description to help support my channel. I've been working tirelessly on this video, and I hope you found it informative and hopefully a little bit funny. Thanks again for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.